which was huge because they spoke about what happened in Dallas when at the protest the cops were ambushed, and Louisiana and New Hampshire and all these different places where cops were under fire. Chief Tim Johnson, comes on board and decides that he has to come up with a way to get ahead of the criminals in the city of Flint. And he creates a team called CATT, Criminal Area Target Team. This is like sending in Black Ops. What were the guys who the private the private security team that was let loose over there in the Middle East? These guys are tactical, and within 7 months of him being chief of police, he got crime cut by 40%. And Flint, who had been on the top 10 worst places and most violent, fell completely off the list in the first 7 months of him being chief of police. Then it goes into the presidential campaign and the divide amongst the officers. The white officers want Trump, the black officers want Hillary, and you get to see that divide, the Republican Democrat divide. Then you get to see the millage. So, Flint, being a place that does not have a lot of money, has to pass tax millages to be able to support its emergency services: fire, police, EMS. And I'm not going to tell you everything because I want you to watch it and see it for yourself, but it also discusses the millage that had to happen to find out if we have money for more officers and anything that they need or don't have. It does touch on the water crisis. It does touch on the water crisis and the state's attorney indicting and handing out 51 criminal charges for the people who ruined the water here, including manslaughter. Um, I feel overall that watching this should wake people up in other cities that are falling apart, like some of the steel cities that are no longer making steel, some of the GM towns that are no longer GM towns. It's a wake up call so that you understand that this can happen anywhere. 3/4 of the city's population has left. I was included in that population. I left before the Exodus. I left when I turned 20 and moved to Detroit. And then from Detroit, I left and went to Houston for 15 years. For me, I was at a stage in my life where I knew minimum 40 people who had been murdered here in Flint. Friends of mine that I went to high school with, knew from high school at another school, my brother's friends, um, people that I've danced with, laughed with, grew up with, a lot of my neighbors. And I knew that if I did not remove myself from the situation, it was very possible that the aftermath of what was happening would reach me. I've never been a criminal, never had handcuffs on, never entertain a criminal life. But you don't have to entertain these things for yourself to be wrapped up in it. And I knew I had to get away from that. And my family knew that I had to get away from that. And I went as far as I could. And Houston was amazing. Houston gave me sense of self and showed me that people can live in a very multicultural, diverse place in harmony and dream. I think what one of the things that you don't really get to see in this series, but you can probably feel it, is that the youth here do not dream a lot. And if you have no dreams, you have no aspirations. And if you have no aspirations, you have no hope. And if you have no hope, you don't give a fuck. You just don't. Everything that is everything. So if your family is in a war with the neighbors across the street, you're always going to be in that war. If your uncle sells drugs, you are probably going to sell drugs. It's just that simple. It's economics and it's situational. Luckily for me, I grew up with two parents who worked hard every day and who encouraged myself and my sisters to always strive for something else. And when I mentioned to my family after a trip to Houston that I thought I wanted to move here, they didn't blink an eye. They didn't blink an eye at all. They wished me well because they knew it was time for me to go. I think that for anyone watching this series, you need to know